Welcome to Porch Play Chat, sponsored by the American Association for the Child's Right to Play, or our little shortened title, IPA USA. IPA USA is a USA affiliate of the International Play Association. And as part of our efforts to support play, we've introduced Porch Play Chats, which are conversations with people who are just as passionate about play as we are. You can find all the Porch Play Chats if you go to ipausa.org. And up in that top right hand corner is our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, our Instagram. It just goes on and on. And on the YouTube channel, there are 306 Porch Play Chats that are there for you to view, and they're all free to you. So they're great starters for a staff meeting. They're to watch a 20 or 25-minute Porch Play Chat and then talk about the implications for your program. Or if you're a family childcare provider and you sometimes feel alone because it's just you, these are wonderful ways to hear what other people are saying about the child's right to play. So with me today on the porch is Cindy Curry. Cindy, welcome.
Hi.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about Cindy. Cindy's been in the field of early childhood education for over 38 years. We're very similar. I'm a little older. Um, and she's had many roles, including operating a forest and nature school. And currently she's an instructor at the University College of the North is it Paz? In the
It's
Paz?
the pot.
In the pause
Mm.
and facilitates a variety of workshops. She's an active advocate for children playing and spending their days outside in all types of weather. And today she's going to talk to us about getting outside and creating outdoor environments for everyone. So, I'm always curious what you're coming up against when teachers may not feel comfortable with the outdoors, or maybe they don't like bugs, or I mean, really, there's all of those sorts of things that come in that people say, oh, we can't go outside, it's too hot, when it's not too hot, or we can't go outside, it's too cold when it's not too cold, right? So talk to us a little bit about the work that you're doing and sort of how you sort of baby step them through of being outdoors more.
All right. You bet. Thank you, Deb. It's so great to be with you today. And so I think one of the things that I come up against a lot when I'm talking with staff about getting children outside is exactly a great deal of discomfort with weather, or with sometimes I don't even know what to do with kids outside, or this crazy belief that children need to be inside to learn, because there's no real learning happening outside. It's just to blow off steam. And so working with them to understand and really take notice of what children are doing outside, being able to see that learning, because once they find value in it, then they're more likely to take children outside. And so it's really helping them understand and see the value, and then overcoming those fears. So we talk a lot about, okay, what is holding you back? Why are you struggling to get outside? And an interesting thing I heard over this past year was you get the usual, it's too hot, it's too cold, it's too wet. And because up in the paw we get a lot of snow, we also heard, oh, well, the snow's too deep. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's so many things you can do with the children outside in the snow, making those paths, digging and building and all those great things that are happening. And so when you think about children's learning, all that learning that's happening just from digging in the snow. And so as we have spring and summer appearing now, yeah, we get the oh, well, I don't like the bugs, or it's too hot. And so we talk a lot about, okay, those challenges that you're having, are they your challenges, or are they challenges of the children?
Mm-hmm.
And then how can we develop ways to overcome that? And the more they're outside, the more comfortable they become with it, or finding ways to deal with it being too hot or too cold. Because generally, when we say that, it's usually us that are feeling those temperatures and not the children. So how can then we overcome those challenges? Yeah.
It is because you're dealing with decades probably of, maybe a spider bite in the forest when they
Yeah.
were 10 or something that got
Yeah.
infected. And so sometimes we're dealing with the experiences that they had in nature. And sometimes we're dealing with, I never went outside.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not sure what to do when I go out there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it becomes a way of helping them feel more comfortable
Yeah.
while you're, and do you model for them? Like, do you take kids outside and just let them go and see what happens?
Oh, definitely. And so as we're intentionally observing children, we're saying, having these conversations, look at what they're doing now. Look at them, how
Mhm.
they're exploring that. Look at the muscles they're using when they're digging and the questions they have about the bugs that are outside.
Mhm.
Um, and can you feel the wind on your face? Can you feel the warmth in your sun or from the sun? And then talking about, so if you're getting too hot, how can we get cooled off? If
Yeah.
you're too cold, what can we do to warm you up?
Mm.
And a big part of our conversation is just dressing appropriately. And because usually when you're wanting to go in, especially in the winter, it's usually because the adults aren't dressed appropriately. The kids are
Mhm.
having a great time, but it's us that are feeling the cold, and so we want to go in. And
Yes.
so we do a lot of talking about that modeling piece. So if you're saying, oh, it's too wet or it's too cold or it's too windy, then the kids they're picking up on that. And they're
Mhm.
saying, oh, yeah, yeah, you're right. We need to go back inside. We need to go back inside. Or if they've never spent that time outside, they just don't know what to do.
I hear teachers a lot of the time saying, "Oh, we can't go outside. It's too cold and it takes too long to get them dressed."
Yes,
And I go, "Okay, so you plan that as part of the day, and
exactly.
you don't have to, you plan it."
Yeah.
And one of the other things I've been able to say is I've really gotten into play schemas. And,
Hmm.
and so when I do a professional development session with teachers on play schemas and we play with loose parts that some are nature, I always have, half of them playing and half of them observing. And I have a simple little child development checklist that has all the domains with like four little um, pieces of development. And then I have the schemas with a picture of them and another explanation if they it, so they don't have to remember. And and then when they're done, like one group will do child development and the other group will do schemas.
Hmm.
And when we're done, I'll say, "What did you discover?" And they're like, "Oh my God, they did everything. All of these things. All of these things happened in an in 20 minutes of my observation." And I said, "So what if you were out there for an hour? What would happen?" And they're like, "Oh my goodness." And so that seems to help them get that development piece. If they can say, "Oh, well, I'm out here. I don't need to structure it. I can just observe children and do
Oh,
some of those observations I have to do for parent teacher conferences." And that,
exactly. I always tell them it's about the journey, not the destination. And so even if it's taking longer to get them dressed, they're learning how to dress themselves. Once we're outside and they let the children play, they don't need to plan all this stuff. Just offer some really cool loose parts. Let them pick the sticks up off the ground. Let
please.
them play with the rocks. There's all these wonderful things. And we talk a lot about the pedagogy of play, that the how, the what's happening,
Mhm.
the schemas. It's the what are they doing, not what are they playing with, and
Right.
noticing those things, and then taking that time to be reflective and say, gee, I wonder what they're trying to figure out. I
Mhm.
wonder what they're working on. When we can start to look at it from a place of I wonder, it
Mhm.
it really changes our perspective.
And we have to move that I wonder is so helpful in getting them to move away from, oh, that's dangerous. I need to stop it. Right.
Oh my
And
God, yes.
oh my goodness, it is, I think we are way too safe. And I say that in the most respectful way. We certainly do not want children to be hurt, but we are so overprotective that we're
Yeah.
creating um, spaces where children can really get hurt because they haven't ever been
Oh,
able to move those muscles or climb those trees or jump off
yeah.
the playground equipment.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes helping them understand if you take away all the risks and they don't learn to manage it and
Yeah.
they need to learn to manage that.
They do. We talk a lot about risky play as well. And what does risky play actually mean? When I say risky play to people, it's not children jumping off the roof of the daycare center. It
Right.
could be that 2-year-old standing on a tree stump a foot off the ground. That's risky to her, when she's building
Mhm.
those muscles. As she gets older, when she's more capable and confident of going higher, then she might climb that tree.
Mhm.
But helping people understand that children don't take on more risk than they're comfortable with.
Yes.
I have a beautiful story. I had when I ran my family childcare program, we had a picnic table that we never sat at. We only ever climbed on it. And
Mhm.
children would run across it and jump into a pile of leaves. And because we know our children, we know what they're capable of. And so the children were running across the table and jumping off. And then we came to this one little guy. He was a bit bigger. He was a bit more, didn't have the coordination that the other kids did. So knowing my children, I moved closer. And he ran to the end, and I was ready to catch him if I needed to, but he stopped himself. He sat down and he scoochied off the end of the table. So he participated in a way he knew was safe for him. And
Yes.
then we also talk a lot with the adults about risk assessment and helping children learn that language. And
Mhm.
so if we're thinking about, do we want children to climb the tree? Okay, so what are the benefits to children climbing the tree? What are the risks? And we also help them understand the difference between a risk and a hazard. A
Mhm.
risk is something a children chooses to take up. A hazard is something they don't. It might be broken glass, it might be something, a piece of equipment that's damaged. You know, my dogs are playing in the background, so I'm hoping you're not picking that up.
I do not hear them at
Perfect.
all.
Oh, good.
Good puppies.
Um, and so then we think, okay, if these are the risks of letting the children climb the tree, how can we mitigate those? We can make sure there's nothing underneath. We can stand close when they're doing it. We can say those encouraging statements. And so then do the benefits outweigh the risk? And then we can decide as a group if we're going to allow that behavior. And then using that language with the children, we had milk crates that they would stack up and climb up to the top of the mud kitchen. And there was the one day that the crates weren't quite stable. And so I said to the child, "Do you feel safe?" And he stopped and he looked and he kind of shifted his, "Oh, nope, this is a little wiggly." And so he fixed it. I didn't
Mhm.
have to say, "Oh, you know what? I don't think that's safe. You need to be careful." All those things that we say. And so helping children understand how to keep themselves safe, as you were saying, it teaches them how to take on risks and how to keep themselves safe. So as they get older, they can start to think for themselves and
So
make
important.
decisions.
So important, especially as they get to the teenage years. If they've never
Oh,
taken a
yeah.
risk or learned how to manage risk,
Yeah.
then they may be taking risks that are more dangerous to them
Yeah.
than if we just let them understand how to observe, watch, see, and determine if that is a something that is hazardous versus risky.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think we want them to grow up fast, like the
Yeah.
and I was the same way, right? Oh, Rod is in 12-month-old clothes, even though he's just 6 months. I remember
Yes.
in my head, I would say, "Oh my goodness." And he's ahead in his development. He was not ahead in his development. Those clothing sizes haven't been changed for decades. So, we want them. Oh, I can't wait till they walk. And then when they walk, we're like, oh my God, why did I ever want them to walk? Right. So
Yeah.
we're wanting them to hurry up and grow, which is part of this horrible push down academic stuff
Yeah.
that we're in because parents are afraid that their
Mhm.
child isn't going to be ready
Yeah.
for anything. And so I know where that comes from because as a parent, I experienced it.
Yeah.
But but again, it's sort of like, what is it about going outside that, and I would have to say to myself, what is it about development that's more important than him walking at 9 months of age, right? If he wants to, that's
Yeah.
great. But if he doesn't, we're going to wait and not worry.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm going
Well,
to
and
make,
I always tell parents and staff that sitting still is not a marketable skill.
no,
They need to move. And I also say, take a look around at a conference, especially early childhood educators or teachers.
they
How
cannot
many
sit
of them
still.
are sitting still, paying attention to the keynote or the facilitator at the front,
No.
when in actuality they're wiggling, they're talking to their neighbor, they're making notes, they're on their phone, they get up and leave to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, but we are expecting these children to sit still and listen to us. But we know that that's just not normal or natural. And so getting them outside, and that's the other thing that I've come up against is children will be running in the room and they'll be trying to find all these tools and ways to make them sit still or to sit down and read a book. It's like their bodies are like that behavior is communicating with you. It's telling you they need to move. Take them outside. It's going
Please.
to make your life easier and theirs. We know that we see so many less behaviors when children are able to be outside.
Well, and the other thing that is the other excuse I always got, and this is like it has to be one of those things that our mothers and grandmothers or somebody told us. Oh, they can't go outside. It's too cold. They'll get sick. And I'm like, no, they're going to get sick inside. That's where all
Yes,
the germs.
yes,
It's these, and again, that's cultural practices, right? Oh, you can't go
yeah,
outside. It's too cold. Oh, you'll get sick if you go outside and play in the water. Oh, and so we have all of those tapes
yeah.
running in our brains that immediately come out of our mouths instead of
Yeah.
saying, let's think about that for a
You know what?
second.
You even see that on mainstream TV shows.
Yeah.
Mainstream media, it comes out in those. And I was watching it one day. I thought, oh my gosh, that is not true. What are they doing? And
It is
people just,
just,
they've been told it for so long, they just think it's a truth, but
it is
it's
the
so
automatic
not.
response. And
Yeah.
so I asked one of the teachers when I was coaching in a child development center who was like, I'm not taking them outside. They're just going to get sick and then their parents are going to be mad at me. And I said, okay, I need you to just think
Yeah.
for a minute. So just stop for a second. Where are all the germs?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Oh
And
my.
it's interesting when children are first with me when I'm doing a program and it'll start to drip a little bit of rain, really light. They'll look at me and go, "Oh, it's raining. Are we going inside?" And I said, "You know what? It's okay. I've never lost a child yet in the rain. You'll be okay." And after a few times of playing in the rain, it's like, "Oh, yeah, no, it's raining. We're fine." And they love it. They're catching raindrops on their tongues or they're seeing how big a puddle they can jump in and splash, or they just go about their business because after the rain, there's earthworms.
Oh my
And,
goodness.
you
So
know,
exciting. Sean is my
exactly.
middle son who's and if there was a puddle, Sean was in it. He just loved to jump in puddles over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I gave up and I said, okay, let's maybe I'll go outside barefoot today because it's raining and I won't have to buy new shoes tomorrow. Right. So well, let's go outside. You can be barefoot. And that way, I don't care if your clothes get muddy.
Yeah. Well, that's
It
just
was
it. We're all washable.
We are, yes. And it's sort of like in the infant room when it's summer, right? So it's summertime. And when I was an infant teacher, I offered the babies paint and
Mm-hmm.
paper on the floor. And I have this wonderful picture. I wish I had thought of it. There was a teacher who took a big piece of like bulletin board paper and
Mhm.
she cut a hole in the middle. And that's where the babies would crawl and sit. And then she had the spill proof paint things, the
Yep.
paintbrushes in it. And so they would twirl. So they take a paintbrush and then they scoot their little bottoms around beautifully paint all over them. Guess what? We went outside for sprinkler fun and they
Yeah.
got clean and it was fine. They
Well,
were
when we think about parents and it's also helping them understand the benefits of children being outside. And
Mhm.
when I would always make sure that before you start my program, when I was running programs, parents would have to come and meet with me. They'd have to meet me, they'd have to see the space, and I would talk about my philosophy and how children learn and the research behind it and spending all the time outside and that we are going to get dirty and
Mhm.
muddy. And there are
Mhm.
probably going to be scrapes and scratches and probably some bumps and bruises, but it's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And so they had
Well,
to trust me and believe in my program before they would send them because I wasn't fighting that hill. This is my philosophy. This is what we do here. And if
mhm.
you don't agree with it, that's okay.
It's
I
okay.
said, you know what? Children learn through play. There's lots of research that proves that. And
Mhm.
especially outside, we don't do worksheets and rote learning. It's all about the play.
It's all
And
that.
I think over the all the years that I did programs, I had one family that said, you know what, thanks for coming and meeting with us, but I think we're going to choose something else. And that was fine
Yeah.
because it saved any tension for them and for me. And I would have parents that actually would come in and pick up their children because we'd spent the entire day outside. They would
Mhm.
take them into the center, clean them up, change their clothes, whatever, and then take them home
Mhm.
because they were very picky about, getting sand and dirt in their car, and that's okay. And I would have people say to me, this is why I bring them to you because I
Yeah.
don't feel
I
comfortable
don't
doing
want to do
this.
it.
Yeah,
Yes. And
yeah.
isn't that the biggest gift that they could give you? That they they have those same things that some of our teachers do that
Yeah.
they don't want to get dirty or they don't want to be hot or they don't want those bugs out there. And I have to tell you, I'm not a bug person. I like to watch them, but if they start landing on me, I flip out. So I use insect repellent that's not horribly toxic to my body. I love those bracelets that you can put
Yeah,
on.
those are cool. Or the stickers they have for kids now.
And
Yeah.
I mean, we did not have that when I was teaching or even
No.
direct. No. And so this is like a gift to
Yeah,
both children and teachers.
it is.
It is. So we need to take advantage of that. So we were, IPA USA had a conference at Bernheim Arboretum in Kentucky. And of course, it was it was in October, but it was still buggy. And
Yes.
so, because I know what my fears are with bugs and getting bit and stuff, I brought those bracelets for people. And I said,
Mhm.
if you don't like bugs, you can put on a bracelet on your ankle and a bracelet on your wrist, and you'll be good. And they were like, these are amazing. I said, so will you take children outside more? Yes.
Well, and it's so important, for them people to understand what their fear is so then they can face it. For
Mm-hmm.
years, I was not a bug person either, and now I'm saving spiders and letting them free. Uh, but we
Good for
talk to the
you.
kids, we show them, we talk about why we have spiders because they
Mm-hmm.
eat mosquitoes and we like that. You know,
Yes.
we even talk about the importance of things like wasps. Yes, they're going to sting us. They can be very angry. We don't want to get near them, but this is what they do for the environment.
Mm-hmm.
They clean up all the decomposing meat and they do all this good stuff. And so I had a child who'd been with me for the summer. And of course, every spring you kind of have to start the whole process again, right? Because there's been
Right.
no bugs over the winter. And so this was about midsummer, and she was talking, and I just took her hand and we walked away, and she kept talking, telling her story. And she looked at me and she said, there was a wasp, wasn't there? And I said, yeah, there was, but it's okay. We just moved away and it's all good. And, I was so proud of how far she'd come. Um, And we have resource books that we look at. And we have this one about the life cycle of the ladybug. And the kids were able to recognize the little larvae of the ladybugs before they turned into the ladybug. And they'd say, I need that book. And they'd run inside and they'd grab it and they'd come back out and they'd share it with everybody. Look, look. So it's really cool. And in the winter, we'd find, squirrel tracks or bird tracks. And we had those kinds of resource books. They'd come and they'd find the tracks in the book. And so different ways of involving the children in nature, being outside and being able to see what's there.
Well, and just thinking about the amount of knowledge that they're getting through active learning with
Mhm.
their little hands and wanting to go look it up in the book. My goodness, children don't do that. How do you
No.
spell mom? M-O-M, right?
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
then that's it. Instead of when I was a teacher, we had a Dr. Seuss dictionary, the big thick ones with all the pictures.
Yeah.
And so, I had 3-year-olds. I was an infant teacher, a toddler teacher, a preschool teacher, and then eventually a kindergarten teacher. And before I started directing. And so one of the, I think 3.5, but pretty precocious, came over and I'm going to the writing center. I said, awesome. And what are you going to do? She said, I'm going to write a card for my mom. I said, oh, she's going to love that. And so she went over, she said, but I don't know how to spell mom. And I said, I wonder where we could find that word. And then, I said, is there a book about a mom that we could go and look in? Is there and we had used the dictionary lots of times because what does
Mhm.
that mean? What is that word? Blah, blah, blah. So I would go get the dictionary that was on the bookshelf right there for children. And
Yeah.
we'd say, what's that sound that we hear when we start saying that word? What's that sound? Where should we look? And it was, my kids were reading by the time they left. They didn't need to. I didn't force
Yeah.
them to.
No,
They were interested.
exactly. It's not that rote. This is the letter of the week and all that stuff.
Oh my
It's
God.
they wanted to do it.
They
Exactly.
wanted to do
And you
it.
can even take all that stuff outside. I'm such a strong believer in
Yeah.
anything we do inside can go outside. The dress up clothes, the art materials, the writing stuff, the blocks, the any of
The
like
sensory table.
ex
Come
oh my gosh,
on.
that's exactly where it should be because then all the water and everything's on the
Oh,
ground.
yeah, it's wonderful. And
Yep.
I will say that when I was a director in the summer, we had shade where children could go. It was in Colorado. So we're close to the sun there in the mountains. And and so, every child had sunscreen that the parent had brought. So we made sure there were no allergies or anything. And children learn to put on their sunscreen and then we check them over and then we do some application if we needed to add a little bit more,
Yep.
but we were outside all day in the summer,
Yeah.
all day. And when it snowed we were outside. And
Yeah.
I told parents we're not keeping them in, so
Yeah.
they need to be out in that fresh air. And so parents would bring what they needed to bring, and if they didn't we had extras, right, so that we could
Exactly. That's such a
go and
big
get it.
piece of it, is because it doesn't matter who the parent is. Sometimes everybody forgets something.
Everybody does.
Yeah. Yeah. And just
And
having those extras.
yeah, and so you just have extras.
Yeah.
And parents would donate them. Here
Yeah.
they've grown out of this, and so we had the closet that had all the extra
Yeah.
clothes in it, and it was parents would know that they could go and say, he's put this in the closet for a younger child. I'm going to go look for something that might fit him now. And I'd say, go for it, right? Because it was right
Yeah.
there, easily accessible to families. And so they would organize it themselves by size, whether it was pants or shirts, whether it was snow gear, whatever it was lovely. And again,
Hmm.
it was part of that supportive community too. So that,
Yeah. And that's a great culture that you're creating in the community, that they're helping each other.
mhm. We did
Yeah.
the same thing with the toy library. And so
Yeah.
especially around the holidays, even though we didn't celebrate holidays in the child development program, but around the holidays, parents would say, I have to get rid of some of these toys. They've outgrown them. And I said, well, go put them in the toy library. And so they would go do that, and they would say, "Ooh, there's one here that I might want to take. Take it. That's what it's there for." And they were good toys, no battery toys. It was all
Yeah.
hands on. If it was a battery toy, I donated it to somebody else.
Yep.
Yeah, it was not going to be. So those sorts of community building help families feel like they can do it, especially if they're strapped for money, and allow other people to feel like they're doing something good for their program. So it's a win-win.
Oh, it is. And that parent then feels like they're contributing to that program and the child and the other parents in the program. Yeah, it's a lovely
Oh,
way to have parents involved and feel
yeah,
that they're valued.
they do. And they would many times, they would say, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And did I have turnover? No. Parents
Yeah.
were like, oh no, we want to stay there. They like the teachers. They like the
Mhm.
I don't want to say services, but the access to things that they might not have had in other programs. So it's a great
Yeah.
marketing tool,
Hmm.
but we didn't do it for the marketing. We did it because some of our families needed additional support. So anyway, it's all of those things that people are concerned and see as barriers
Hmm.
that we can sort of ameliorate by having a closet. Sometimes a mom would call us ahead of time and say, he has a doctor's appointment at 4. I said, okay, we'll clean him up.
Oh, exactly. You work with the parents. There's those things that come up. It's
She would be like, yeah, the doctor's appointment. And I'm like, okay. The doctor would be happy if he came in all messy, trust me, but
oh,
I
oh yeah.
understand. So we'll get him cleaned up for you.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And
Yeah.
so how do you help them? And we're almost out of time. Oh, we're over
Yes.
time. Sorry, we're over time. But
Yeah.
give me one more thing before we close out, and then we'll wrap up. See, we could talk for hours. It's
Oh,
just
we could, Deb, yes. I think just building back on the adults seeing the value in being outside and being able to advocate, being an intentional observer and seeing all the development that's happening. And for those that need that academic piece, is saying when they're digging, that's science. When they're, growing flowers in a pot, maybe you don't have a full garden, but you have a pot, that's science. Watching the sun move in the sky over the year is science. It's the social studies, being together, getting to know your community, literacy, taking books outside, everything you can identify, all the curriculum areas, all the developmental domains, just from being outside
yeah,
and figuring out what your own hesitancies are and what's stopping you and figuring out how to get over that. I think those are the most important pieces of it.
absolutely. And I think that you're coaching them and helping them sort of confront the things that make them feel uncomfortable, and then offering some options is
Mhm.
also so helpful, because everything that you do inside is actually more effective when
Yeah,
they're outside, because you're trying
exactly.
to structure it when they're inside. And
And
outside
all
they're
those
just
rules, right?
all those rules, and outside they're just being curious and exploring, which is what they need to do.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
thank
exactly.
you, Cindy. This has been amazing. Stay right there while I close this out. To
All
learn
right.
more about IPA USA, please visit our website at ipausa.org. And until next time, keep on playing.